This is GrantTalk, hosted by Libby Hikind, founder and CEO of GrantWatch and author of The Queen of Grants.
Hi, everybody. I'm Libby Hikind, founder and CEO of GrantWatch.com, and I'm the author of The Queen of Grants, From Teacher to Grant Writer to CEO. And I am your host today on GrantTalk. Sitting with me today is Eloiza Altoro, and she is the fund advisor for the Nonprofit Management Fund located in Wisconsin. And I'm very happy to meet with her today because they have grants, they offer grants, and their grants are on GrantWatch.com. So let's find out what they're about, how we can apply, who can apply, and why they give grants. What's their mission? What's their vision? So, Eloiza, thank you so much for sharing your morning with me and with all of our followers. How did you get into this?
So I've actually been working with non-for-profits for over 30 years, and I started out working directly with nonprofits, and then I started to do consulting work over 25 years ago. So I was working with professional societies and associations. And interestingly enough, when I first started working specifically around nonprofit consulting, I was part of a board consulting institute that was offered by the Nonprofit Management Fund. And it was really a way of kind of allowing a training process for consultants to get generalized experience in doing nonprofit consulting. And that started out my career, 25 years ago in that area. And then after that, I would do consulting work for organizations who receive grants through the fund. Then many years later, I was fortunate with the opportunity to become the fund advisor. So now I'm on, I think, year 5 of the fund advisor of the Nonprofit Management Fund.
So do you review the grants yourself?
I screen them, I provide recommendations, and then we have a grant review committee made up of the 8 funding partners that comprise our fund, leadership of our fund, I should say.
So what does your fund give money for?
Yeah, so our fund is over 31 years old. We celebrated our 30-year anniversary last year, and it's actually a collaborative fund. So our focus is around capacity building for non-for-profits, and we really work specifically in the greater Milwaukee area and surrounding counties. And our focus is to help with a lot of things that a lot of other foundations might not assist with, which include like governance, training, leadership, financial management, fund development, marketing, communications. So more of the background capacity types of support that they need. We pay for consultants to come in and do the work. So a lot of nonprofits don't have the funds, or they might not necessarily receive funding from groups that would allow that. So we pay for consultants to come in and support them in some of these capacity areas that they might need as far as smaller type of projects.
How about grant writers?
Grant writers, not so much, unfortunately, because we would probably go broke very quickly if we try to pay for that. But we do support like grant writing cohorts. We've got one that's going to be coming up at the end of the year. So other than the grants that we provide, we also provide training cohorts on specific topic areas because we recognize that our money only goes so far. We don't have a ton of it. So in areas that we know that we get a lot of requests, we've been looking at experimenting around cohorts that help to support larger groups, working with a group of consultants or individual consultants.
We once had a nonprofit organization. They invited me to come and speak. And what they did was they actually paid for GrantWatch for 10 nonprofit organizations. And in order to do that, they had like a challenge. Write your grant and pitch it at this conference. And so everybody pitched their activity, their project, and then they awarded 10 subscriptions because they felt, well, you guys are really ready to apply for grants. You are grant ready. So now we're going to help you. And that was their way of supporting the nonprofit organizations.
That's cool. Yeah, we're doing a fundraising studio. So at the end of the last quarter, actually, it's going to be probably in kicking off in maybe July, August. And it's going to be geared toward organizations that have little to no support internally around fundraising. And we're going to be doing somewhat of a boot camp. So we're working with a team of past philanthropists, fundraising consultants, and someone with an accounting background who's going to be working with a group of like 10 organizations and walking them through the process of, everything you need to know around grant writing, fundraising, those kinds of things. Because we recognize that those are the groups that there tends to be a lot of, and they struggle the most around fundraising. So we're trying to level up some of these smaller organizations with less capacity to be able to still go out and do what they need to do to around fundraising. We know that
Right.
that's not enough to support everyone, but yeah.
Right. We have small organizations all across the country, and they have passion.
Yes.
And they have the project, and they see the need because they're boots on the ground, but they don't know where to start. And you're mentoring, you're building capacity. That is great. So tell me about the grant application that you have available.
Yeah. So, we normally do 3 cycles a year, March and July and in November. But this year, our first cycle of the year, we had double the amount of applications that we normally do and double the amount of requests actually triple the amount of requests than we normally give out as far as funds. So as you can imagine.
That's what GrantWatch does.
Yeah.
We let everybody know that your grant is available.
Yeah. So what we did was we gave out more money than we normally would our first cycle, just to kind of front load the opportunity for organizations to get what they need for this year more than ever. And then we won't be offering our summer cycle, but we will open again in the fall. And that allowed us to be able to support more nonprofit organizations earlier in the year than we normally would.
It's great. Really great.
Oh, so just to go back, the application's on our website, nonprofitmanagementfund.org, and it opens up during a 10-day period. So the application periods is on our website. It's a pretty simple application because we don't want organizations to have to jump through a lot of hoops. So we try to make it relatively simple, not so long as far as application. It requires them to get a consultant proposal ahead of time. So they have to meet with the consultant, discuss the deliverables, and then submit the consultant proposal with the application, which is a little bit different from how other groups tend to do things. And then we review them probably about a month after everything is submitted. And then we disperse soon after they, complete their grant acknowledgement agreement.
I see a lot of foundations changing the way they do business right now.
Yes.
I just interviewed another foundation. They do video calls after the grant application is submitted. Do you have a reason why you think they're doing that now?
We do. Actually, we allow for video calls beforehand. So if you go on our site, what we found that as we started to offer one-on-one consultations, usually about 30 minutes or so with myself, and I average maybe, anywhere from 2 to like 6, depending on if we're closer to grant cycle. And it's an opportunity to talk to someone. Sometimes they just want to tell us about their organization. They'll tell us about their challenges. They'll ask if what they're trying to pitch would fit within our funding guidelines. So we've seen a significant amount of change in the amount of applications we've actually had to deny due to not being part of our funding priorities. And we get a lot that are, which is heartbreaking because we can't actually fund them all, even though we're seeing a high amount of good quality, proposals that are coming through. We are noticing that we will probably have to do things different in the future because we want to be as responsive as we can to the community. We see some foundations are saying, okay, we're going to hone in and do less things, and then just to smaller groups of organizations. In general, our philosophy has been to try to support as many organizations as we can broadly, even if that means partial funding, but to support as many organizations as we can. So we are going to be convening in the summertime to have some strategy conversations to really look at our environment and look at the community and assess the needs. We are right now acquiring information from a lot of our not-for-profits in the area, doing listening sessions and then evaluations to acquire as much data as we can to help to inform those conversations that we'll be having this summer and hopefully being as responsive as we can to the current environment.
I think that what we find is people think they're eligible for something and they're not, or they have a program and they didn't check your 990. They don't know what your mission statement or vision is, or they just not reading, and then they apply.
That happens.
Right?
Yes. It's not as
And
often,
then you
though.
go
It's
like,
rare.
why did they apply to us?
Right.
What do we have to do with what they're trying to do?
Right.
And
That's
then
the biggest thing that honestly, if any non-for-profits are watching this, I would say that that's the biggest faux pas, right? Like to come in and apply for a grant and have absolutely no idea what you're applying for, or it doesn't even fit or align with anything. So like at least read the website and look at the eligibility requirements, because that just makes organizations not look good at all. And like I said, it is very rare. It doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it's just not a good thing.
Any particular organization that you want to do a shout out about that you're really proud that you funded and what they've done with the money?
Not necessarily any particular one, but I do have to say that I feel as if the not-for-profits in our area are very highly responsive right now to being accepting and accommodating to any resources available to them. We have offered like convening sessions with some of our strategic partners, and we are sold out and meeting capacity and space like within probably a couple weeks of opening registration for some of those events. All of our cohort sessions are selling out. So I really do feel like the non-for-profits are taking advantage. And even though it takes up some of their time, are recognizing that like we're offering what's available and, trying to be responsive. But I think nonprofits are doing their part to try to figure out exactly what's available, taking advantage of the resources. So I just want to give props out to all of our non-for-profits for still maintaining a level of positivity about the future and trying to do all that they can do to try to continue to do the best possible thing they can for our communities.
And you're offering it and they're being responsive. So what you're offering obviously is what they need.
Right.
So I give a shout out to you.
Yeah. And even just being more responsive in the quality of feedback that we're getting. Like we're not just getting, oh, this is great, but really truly giving us meat that we can sink our teeth into and say, okay, this is very, very good feedback. It's open and honest feedback. And also just being willing to share the struggles, the challenges, and not just trying to be a perfect organization. Because that's the other thing that we've been around so long that I feel like we have a reputation that people understand that we're not looking for perfect organizations. Like that's not the point of our fund. It's okay to be open and honest and to share that you have challenges and that you have needs and that there's things that, you really need to support and guide the work that you're doing. And the other shout out is to just the trust that nonprofits have put into us, allowing us into that space and accepting the fact that we're not looking for perfect organizations and being willing to be vulnerable and open and honest with us so that we can be there to support them in whatever stage that they're in. So that's another piece that I think is great.
When a nonprofit receives a grant and they let us know, we send them this because we want to say, we want to let them know somebody cares, because sometimes the person that's writing the grant is not really getting the recognition that they deserve. And when they have this coffee mug on their desk, everybody knows they want a grant.
Yes. No, that is definitely true.
And I'll
want
tell you,
nonprofits to know that we hear them. We're there right along with them. And every step of the way, we will figure out what we can do to continue to support what they're doing. And we've gotten good feedback with groups that have said, thank you for all that you're doing, for supporting us, for believing in us, and for, continuing to find new ways to help us through what we're going through. So to me personally, that's what helps me get up every morning and continue to help to feel good about what I'm doing, because I know that there's a direct correlations between what we're trying to do and the work, making work just a little bit easier on some of the nonprofit executives, boards, and support, as well as just the communities that they serve, knowing that we're going to figure out a way of continuing to support them.
Well, I think about how we advertise the grants and then people receive the grants and then it just keeps going and going. Your people learn how to help help their nonprofit, help the people in their community, and those people are helped and get a hand up, right? So we just pay it forward and pay it forward with everything.
Right.
And I can tell you, just like your programs that you're offering are being scooped up, people are registering. We find, I wrote this book and I find that it jumps off the shelves. It's
Oh, wonderful.
because people really want to know, how did I get to where I am in the grant writing space, and then how to write grants. So like, this book is close to 300 pages, but after the first 100 pages, I stop telling you my story, and then I teach you. And one of the things I always say is, reach out to the funding source. Let them know you're going to apply for the grant. Make some communication. And here it is. You have a consultant to work with them in advance of the application, which is really an excellent way to do it. Because any nonprofit that's applying for a grant, it takes over the entire company. Everybody's involved. It's not just one person in a small cubby hole. Everybody needs to participate, because you need also data, statistics, organizational history, everything. Why waste the organization's time if you're not eligible? By reaching out, you really know. So that's why
I've had organizations that it's made a big difference in just having conversations with me prior to, because there's a level of context sometimes that we don't have when we're a bunch of reviewers around the room, looking at an application, and then reviewers have questions and say, why this and why that, but we have no answers. And there's been other times where it's like, you know what, I know this might be an odd request, but I just want to fill you in on the context of what's going on, so that when you get the proposal, you can at least share this information with the reviewers. And so it's been beneficial and helpful sometimes in just understanding the context of some of the groups that we've been, funding.
Where does your funding come from?
Yep. So we are administered by the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. So they administer our grants, but we have 8 funding partners. So that includes Bader Philanthropy, Daniel M. Sorf Trust. It includes Rockwell Automation, Zilber Family Foundation, United Way, Greater Milwaukee Foundation is part of that partnership. And I'm going to forget all of them.
Okay, so please forgive us. And if you give me a list, I'll put it in the link below so everybody will know.
That would be great.
Okay.
Bradley Foundation is also on that list. I might be missing one or two. I apologize. But yes, I will give you a list directly to our funding partners. So I think that's another unique thing that we were able to celebrate, is this collaborative funding partnership that started over 30 years ago, which is still not as common today. But it started with a couple funders around the room saying, you know what, like, we recognize that we fund some organizations and they don't necessarily have, we're not as confident in the back house things, and so these funding partners came around the table and said, what can we do to help support organizations with capacity, knowing that many of us fund programs, but we also want to make sure that if we're giving them funds, we're confident in them utilizing those funds and providing quality services and all of that. So all of them agreed at the early stages to pitch in so much money to create a pool of funds that would support organizations, so that if they come to the fund and say, hey, we're struggling with our board, but we want to get money for this program, our funders can go back confidently and say, hey, contact the nonprofit management fund and see if they can help you with a project related to creating a higher level functioning board, so that when they give them money for other things, they know that they're dealing with an organization that is in a good space for capacity building.
I think that you've offered so much to our viewers. And if they want to get in touch with you, I'm going to ask them to please comment below, and let's have them write the word management, right? Because you're the nonprofit management fund.
Yes.
So let's have them write the word management, because what you're doing in your community can be replicated in other communities. So they may want to hear more about it as well. And as always, everyone, please follow us on all our social media channels, especially on YouTube, so that we can subscribe, so that we can get you more of these GrantTalk videos. And I'm so happy that we got to speak with you today. And please continue all the great work that you're doing. You're really making a difference. It's very clear to me.
Thank you. You know what? I remembered our other funding partner, Northwestern Mutual. So I want to make sure to shout them out as well.
Okay. We don't want to leave anybody out, because they're all doing such great work. Thank you so much for today.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Grant Talk, powered by GrantWatch. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this GrantWatch channel. Please consider subscribing to GrantWatch.com, and you can find the book, The Queen of Grants, by going to GrantWatch.com/book. Thank you again for spending your time with us.